Hey everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in. Today I am reviewing this IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty Celebration Matte Palette. It's limited edition and I got mine off of Ulta's website. It is $42. It has a mirror up top there and inside are 14 different matte shades along with this Transforming Ombre Radiance ribbon. The original palette had just one kind of champagne shimmery shade down here, so this one goes kind of between two different shades. The thought with that is that if you don't want to just wear all of these shades matte, you could layer this shimmery color on top of any of these and sort of change the look a little bit. I think if you're getting this palette, you're primarily probably interested in matte eyeshadows. I don't think it's essential that this color has to work its way into every look, but it's nice to have that little pop of shimmer if you want it. Now this is the original IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette. Packaging on both is kind of hard to show on camera because it sort of takes away from the look of the shadows here, but I find this new palette to be even more neutral than the original. And this is a fairly neutral palette too, but I still think it has a few more colorful shades. Here you're getting some really, really deep dark shades, and then I think an expanded selection of those light and mid-tone neutrals. After showing this in my haul video over on the other channel, I had heard a few complaints about the texture of these shadows, and personally I find that these perform, for me, very much like the original palette. But on my eyes, I always use an eyeshadow primer. For example, today I use my Milani eyeshadow primer. It doesn't have to be anything expensive, but I use a primer with every eye palette, and I find that it does really help the color payoff and the staying power of whatever I'm using. But please know that any swatches you see in this video are free from any sort of primer underneath. But I do feel like these shades are very soft, blendable, easy to work with, easy to layer one on top of the other and get a really diffused, nicely finished look. One of the strengths of this palette, I think, are the really dark shades. I'm thinking of Sugar Plum, Starry Night, Coal. I find these dark shades to be really rich and definitely lend themselves to a smoky eye. Something I really would have liked to see in this palette were more color pops though. I mean, it's a really, really neutral palette. I think it's even a little more neutral than the original. The original palette had some shades like Sunset, which I thought gave a really nice kind of corally orange twist to some looks. Violet offered a nice little purpley tone. You've got Midnight here, which is a nice like navy blue, but not so navy that it almost looks black. And there are just a lot of shades in here that, while they may not be exact dupes of the original palette, they're kind of close, you know? Just to show you these shadows going on, after using a primer, I went into Peace with my e.l.f. Studio crease brush. This is kind of a cool taupe shade, and I just blended that into my crease first. Then I used Warm Wishes, which is a soft pink, and I used that all over the inner half of my lid. Then I used a small brush with Sugar Plum. Yes, any purple during the holiday season has to be renamed Sugar Plum, and I just patted this in my outer corner, worked it up into the crease just a little bit as well. Also, just with that same brush, I took Sugar Plum on my lower lash line. And then I really like how that purple blends in with Miracle, which is kind of the dusty rose in this palette, so I used that with my small E36 brush, just right along the border of the look. Then up under my brow, I used Champagne as my highlight. And then just to finish off the look, I did some black liner on the upper lash line, and I used just a touch of Coal. It just took a little bit to kind of make a little connection there at the outer corner. So bottom line, can you get some pretty looks with this palette? I think absolutely. And I do find that the formula of the shadows in this second palette performs just like the original. For me, my main critique is more about the color selection. If I just had to pick one of these palettes to go with, I would go with the original because I think it is a nice selection of neutrals, but you have a few more interesting shades thrown in there. I really love Sunrise and Sunset, you know, these pretty warm tones. Those are kind of like game changers in this palette because you got a lot of cool things going on. This one, while I feel like it's a nice selection of neutrals, it doesn't offer that kind of unusual twist, and frankly a lot of shades in here are kind of close to the shades in the original. But I am a big fan of IT Cosmetics eyeshadows, and if you are too and you love mattes, I think you'll like this palette. I just want you to be advised that you might not find a ton of like drastic differences between the looks you turn out with this and the looks you turn out with the original, except the fact that the original has just a little more, I think, variety in its colors. So hopefully that answers any questions you had about this new IT Cosmetics Celebration Naturally Pretty palette. I'd love to hear your opinions if you've tested it out as well. I'll see you again next time. Bye.